Well, the first time I actually saw, this is why the brother is so deep. The first time I saw him, I heard him. So we're on one side of the Magic Theater. On the other side, the proscenium side, I saw a Huey P. Newton story there, and it was like a month-long run, and I must have seen it like 20 times, no joke. But the sound in it is so involved. It's another character. It's like where the dialogue happens with Huey P. Newton, Roger Guenveur Smith, and the sound. The sound is music, it's dialogue, it's artifact, it's history, it's active, it's music. And so, by the time the third time happened, I'm looking through the program trying to figure out who this guy is. And then typical of Marc Anthony, he'd be in the back during the show, and then as soon as the show was over, he's ghost by the time it's done. So I never met you. And so I collected I just went in the files and started getting all his
Was that pre-Google?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So I hit the record store and started trying to find them all. Or I found a lot of them, and the man is true to the musical moniker, Chocolate Genius. Yeah, that was the first time, and then we really didn't meet, like kick it meet until Campo Santo did a show with Marc Anthony and Roger about about 2017, 18 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And we really developed it from the ground up, so we got to spend a lot of time together. Yeah.
It was wild too, because that show next door was like a pretty long run for us, but we lived in Oakland. Uh-huh. So we were like come across the bay for the show. So I was really like trying to develop some relationship with San Francisco, but I was like limited by getting home at 10 o'clock of Bart.
Yeah, Bart ain't.
Yeah. But it was wild. It was wild being here, because it was also like a very poignant time in my life. Like I found out my daughter was born.
Uh-huh.
It was just like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, right?
I didn't know that.
This was the last show, the last run that I did before I moved to New York. And so I was getting an apartment in New York while we were here. Uh-huh. Right? And it's like we left this run and I moved to New York into a sublet that I didn't even, it's my first time like living in New York. It was wild.
When you moved, did you guys had yet to do the public theater run then?
Yeah. We had, that wasn't even on the horizon at that point. But it was just like moving there and figuring it out. Yeah.
How about when you did that long run?
Here?
Yeah, so that's like 6 nights a week, 7 shows or whatever. You're not that you compartmentalize it, but maybe you do, like in your dialogue with the soundboard and all your music and score and cues with what Roger's doing, but like the music composer in you, are you ever like fiending to be like, no, but I gotta do a concert, or I gotta do a show, or I gotta compose tunes?
No. I mean, at that time you're right, they were completely compartmentalized. And my music thing and the theater thing were so disparate. And this was just like another avenue for dough, you know what I mean? Uh-huh. It's like we're working and like, but I still had all these songs and was trying to figure out how to get that out there. But it was like, until we did those long runs, it was just like, oh, now we're going to travel and we're going to hang together. Right. We were like fucking, like, you know what I mean? He's like my brother. So we were like doing all that stuff. But no. At that point, there was no conflict.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later where the play took so much time and we went back to New York.
Yeah. And
then it really felt like I got to figure out what we're doing and, an exact conflict, because Huey Newton came up with a recording schedule I had. Uh-huh. Other than that, I was all in and we were doing it.
And like when you're recording, I'm sure it's different every time you do an album, but like at that time, because it was a big label and a big deal, do you be on like what do you call it? You call it banker's hours, or do you Or can you make your own hours? You go like, I'm ready to go in at midnight, let's go all night or whatever.
Well, the cool thing was I hooked up with this label called V2, and it had been like Richard Branson's label, and he like had started Virgin.
Yeah.
Right? And so his idea, not his idea, but the dilemma was that he couldn't start a label. When he saw Virgin, he signed this deal that meant he couldn't make another label for 5 years. But when he made the label, they were just like trying to be this like new idea of what an artist wants. So I got signed, and it was like kind of dreamy.
Yeah.
It was like, you don't have to wait for a record. You just go in the studio when you want. So we were just like spending like Richard Branson's money, and yeah, it was kind of dreamy.
Yeah.
And so that was like a really, it was so different to come out of this world of theater with Roger, where we're like, you know, we got these shows and the budgets or whatever theater is, and all of a sudden I'm back to like the, you know, I don't want to say the beauty, but the capitalist part of like.
Yeah,
you know
for sure.
Like,
For sure.
here
We're
you
talking
go.
Virgin money too.
Oh,
We ain't
we're
talking
talking
regular
like-
money.
Yeah, it was funny because me and Roger one night we were arguing about something. I was like, it was like, whatever. It was like, yeah, it was large money for me at that point,
Yeah.
especially. So the hours weren't really different, but I was like doing the show with Roger. We had it kind of lined up. We were good. We didn't have to like fuck around or think about it. We just walked in every night. Our lexicon at that point had developed really. We were cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was not a lot of talk getting into the theater except for what are we gonna do after? Who's coming tonight? And what's
Right.
the thing? You know, we'd like move into a theater. Like we moved into LA, the Actors Gang Theater, and every night it was like serious party
Yeah.
in LA. So it's the dressing rooms filled with all these fucking people. Then we moved into New York, and it was like, oh, there's Max Roach, there's
Right.
Harry Belafonte. It was like, it was crazy. It was crazy. But then when I stopped doing the play, because I started doing the record, we were in New York, and it became like it was a trippy experience.
Yeah. I
To
bet.
do this play on the road for like, you know, a few years, and all of a sudden do it in my hometown. 'Cause at that point, I finally moved to New York, had an apartment in the East Village. I'd walk like to the public theater to do our shows.
Right.
I was like, this is starting to feel like a job. I mean, a really cool job,
Right.
but a job nonetheless.
Yeah, because you was hitting every night.
Every night.
Yeah.
We hit every night. And hit it hard every night.
Yeah.
Because that's how Roger does, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there was no, yeah. And at that point, we had done it like, I think we did 500 shows before we filmed it. You know,
That's insane.
oh my God, we had done like a 2-month run in Los Angeles. We moved into the public theater for a few months, and then we went to like, we went to towns where people couldn't even understand English.
Uh-huh.
You know, we did it in Belgium. So we were locked.
Yeah.
It's paid off for all these shows we do. But at a certain point, like, you know, I had to do this other thing. I did my first record, Black Music, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Your first record is Chocolate
As
Genius.
Chocolate Genius, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I was sad to leave the show, but it was like, I did that record, and I don't know,
Yeah.
it was cool.
But going back before Huey, because Huey's like, you have to have seen the show to understand how it's almost too simplistic to say the music is in dialogue or the music is in character, but it really is.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I love music and I love trying to figure out ways to score theater in a way that isn't filmic but is organic to the thing, how do you think it was because you're, you know, tried and true creative composer musician, or is it the Los Angeles vibe of you and Roger? What makes what you guys create together like an actual dialogue between the sound, the cues, and his, you know, his literal text dialogue? I mean, it's unique. There's no one in the game that does what you guys have done. And I just don't know. I can watch it so I can see the shape of it, but how did that, like, in the first time, you know, usually someone goes, it'd be cool, man, if you could put a bed under here, or can you do a tune? Like, how did you come up with the language that you guys have?
Well, it took time, A, but B, it was like, Roger is like, he's a deeper fan of music than I am. You know what I mean? And there's always this like polemic where I think like actors want to be singers and musicians. And you know what I mean? Musicians always want to move into the film world. I never had any aspirations to be in theater at all. And then when I met Roger, we were friends like young. We didn't know each other, but we were, like had gone to the same nursery school. And in ninth grade, we were in the same school in ninth grade, and I saw him, but didn't really know him. And then I saw him in a film, and I was like, that's that guy I keep seeing around.
Right.
But when I finally, like, I was at a club one night, and he was handing out flyers for a play he did called The Task. And he like handed me a flyer. I was like, dude, I kind of recognize you. He's like, I got your records. And at that point, in 1989, no one had my records. Like, literally, no one had my records. But he's such a fan of music that, he knew my records. And so somehow I lost his phone number, and then like a year later, I was on a hike in Hollywood, and he was coming down the hill I was going up, and he's like, ah. So he gave me his number, and he showed me Frederick Douglass. That's the first thing I saw of his. I sat literally in his studio, and he showed me Frederick Douglass. He said, you want to work on something? I was like, yeah. So we did a piece called Christopher Columbus, 1992. Yeah. We did that, and then I realized the only way that I could approach what he does was to think of it as songs in an album, right? So I'd see his text or a theater piece he was doing, I would think, I can just break it into songs, and how can I interpret these things as like, here's where you need score, here's where you need that. And so it's been beautiful, because we always look at it, even this piece, Otto Frank, I just think of it as a long song. And here's where, the album starts, finishes, we break up those things. So that thing really worked for Yui, but the cool thing was, in developing it over time, was like the sitting at the soundboard became a character.
Yeah.
And so we had this dialogue in theaters, and it was always kind of like what we've been talking about that day, what was topical at the moment. And it kind of just, in certain points, it was us entertaining ourselves, and the audience just happened to be there.
Right.
So we were bouncing stuff over their heads. And it's kind of been like that for me, like that.
That's wild. And then when you have a piece that you're going to do here, how much in the seeding of your crazy brain, your chocolate genius crazy brain, how much of that is like just the wildness that is Marc Anthony Thompson's brain? How much of it is I'm a composer that thinks in long form album, or I'm a storyteller of the visual, musical, performative variety, and I'm going to cram them all in here. Because you do visuals. I've seen your incredible visuals, film, video for your own work, but also with Roger. So I don't know, did you look at your piece as, I guess, how did it seed in your head?
Well, I can't take anything away from like watching how amazing he is every night, and thinking like what the possibilities are when the lights go dark. Because like whether it's at a movie theater or wherever you are, and like you walk in and the lights go down, and like now what happens? And I've always thought like like my only job is to like, you have two speakers in a room for whatever, and just create something that comes out of there that's like my daughter said to me the other day, like, music is just like magic air. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's like what Ornette say or Eric Dolphy said, it's like, it's in the air and it's gone. It's like, and so it's like, I just think about filling that space, and the visual thing has kind of come later.
Yeah.
In the process for me, because when I first started, I thought I was going to be a graphic artist before any of this music stuff. I was like, I really like graphic design. And now with the advent of like all the things we can do with computers and stuff, it's kind of easy to take that discipline and blow it up a little bit, So I don't know. It just seems natural to me to like, because I've always thought like, if there's a book I'm not reading, like, then I got to write that book.
Right.
You know what I mean? If there's a song I'm not hearing, then I got to write that song. So in the theater, it's been really inspiring to see Roger. But at the same time, when the lights go down, I'm like,
Right.
Well, what I want to do. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then the piece that we're working on is just like, it seemed really natural, because it's like, it's such a, I don't want to say crazy time, but everything is so fluid. to look back at this story of Ellen and William Kraft, it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is like all the things I've been thinking about every day, you know?
Right. Right.
And here we go.
And in your, when you've, as a songwriter, you've been a songwriter, amazing songwriter forever, did it always come natural to you that, you know, because I've heard your albums from the first, the eponymous, to, you know, tracks that you just share with people. Have they always been such, I mean, they're like prose storytelling thing. Has that always been your hit as opposed to, here's the hook, and I found the groove, and I'm going to put something together?
I don't know, you know, the process has been like, or the journey. I mean, when I first started, you know, thinking about music as something I wanted to do, it was like, it's funny because I was talking to my wife today, and it's not like you choose it. You know what I mean? It was just like something that was like, there was nothing else that resonated at any point in my life that made me want to do it 6 hours a day as a teenager, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I put those hours in as a teenager, but I really thought I was going to be a saxophone player, like a jazz saxophone player.
Wow.
And then I was practicing hard all the time, and there was a great tenor player that lived across the street from me named Michael Sessions that plays with this Horace Tapscott, very famous Los Angeles orchestra leader in the vein of Sun Ra. Like the band lived together, and they lived up the street from me.
That's wild.
And this guy would come out and play on his porch, and I would hear it. I'd be in my room, and he would just come out, just. I was like, it was mind blowing. You know? At times it was inspiring, but at times it was so intimidating. And then I heard Charlie Parker, and then I was done. I was like, I'm never going to play saxophone like that. It's never going to happen like that. So I thought, well, now I know saxophone. I can write stuff for saxophone. You know what I mean? And then, like, I had written a few like instrumental songs in high school, but then when it finally came down to it, like I put a band together, and everyone had day jobs, and I was like the guy at home, so I had to write songs. So when they came to rehearse, I had a song ready, and I kind of inadvertently became the guy that could sing the songs that I wrote. I'd never thought about singing. Didn't sing in church. Didn't do any of that. And it kind of like evolved from there. The early songs were kind of just attempts at wordplay, but they didn't mean anything. You know, you look back at them now, they were clever. They didn't mean much. And it wasn't until probably I released Black Music, and I decided, you know, like if I could do these songs all the time, I really want to believe in them.
Yeah.
It's like it's easier to tell the truth and remember it than lie and make up something, right?
Yeah.
And so I did that first record, and then I was just like, it's kind of confessional, but I got these really great musicians, you know what I mean? So it's going to groove hard, and then there was kind of no turning back, you know?
But then, so that before you had any kind of label, before Watts, Paris, before all that, you found your voice almost by virtue of like.
I don't think I found
no
my
one
voice
else.
at that point. I don't think I found my voice. I knew I found a voice that wasn't out there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I hadn't found my voice yet.
Yeah.
And probably still, you know, in some ways looking, not for my voice as a singer, but just a way to negotiate things I hear without trying to be consciously reactionary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for me, it's like it's bad to be like reacting to things that I don't like and things I do like.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
We just kind of like, it was funny today, I was hanging out with my uncle who's here in San Francisco. We're sitting by the pool. He was so excited to play me music, and I was like, dude, I don't want to hear any music. You know what I mean? It's not like, I don't want to, it's not like a chef not wanting to eat food. I was just like, I feel like I'm in the embryonic stages of what we're doing for this next piece. And I was like, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. My relationship with music is difficult. Sometimes it feels like it's a luxury to be an artist, but it's also this luxury that you're chained to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you have this really beautiful couch and you sleep on it. Then you try to get up and walk to the kitchen and you're handcuffed at the ankle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like I love this shit, but like sometimes I just want to take a fucking break and be a farmer. You know? It's difficult, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Is that why you do your woodcraft work?
The woodcraft started with the pandemic, and yeah, it's like that's why I play tennis.
Mm-hmm.
It's like surf
Yeah.
because there are these Zen activities where you don't have much time to react except for anything except a wave.
Yeah.
With a tennis ball, there's no you don't the more you think, the shittier you play. You know what I mean? So woodworking has become that thing where you're working with power tools, which I'm always worried about my hands. So it's intense concentration, but yeah, it's definitely a beautiful way to procrastinate and take me away from, because I feel if I'm not writing a song every day, I feel guilty.
Uh huh.
You know what I mean? That's the only thing I know how to do. You know what I mean? It's like, it's what I do. You know?
How conscious, and this is, an odd question, but it's also, it's like the thing that courses through, whether it's the work you do with Roger, so Black history, Black music, Chocolate Genius, the Craft Project. Like, how conscious is Blackness when you approach things? I know that's kind of like the in bold question, but is there
It's not a. What would you say? Would you call that in bold question?
Yeah.
That's only because we're probably talking for other people here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I'm Black, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's
Right.
it's like everything I think about, everything.
That's right.
It's informed by everything. It's like
Yeah. Right.
whether I think about it's cool because you and I have had this conversation, not necessarily this camera, but it's like, I'll give you a good example. With songwriting and with anything you're creating, there's like a really racist dude named Kim Fowley, producer, just a fucked up dude. But he had this really great quote, and he said, if you're singing in the shower, it's honest. If you walk out of the shower and your partner's sitting there and you're singing that same song,
You perform.
it's a little less honest
Yeah.
when you're performing. But if you walk out and try to sell it to the world, you're lying. You're just a pimp,
Right.
And so I understand what he means, as fucked up as that thing sounds.
Yeah.
And so, the racial quota in what I do, has been challenging at times. Because, I'll have a club date, I think I'm singing these songs, and I look out, and the audience is all white. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that's not cool.
Right. Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Definitely.
That's not what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, I'm really happy you're here.
Right.
You know what I mean? But where are my people?
Right.
So I don't I don't conceive anything with an audience in mind. I would hope that it would resonate with people that think like me, and if they look like me, that's great.
Yeah.
But if they
Right.
don't, then we got to figure out how we went wrong. Get these Black people in here.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, I'm being flippant, but you know what I'm saying.
But yeah, for sure.
And it's incredible here because not only Campo Santo, but doing these shows here, it's been a really diverse audience, and it's great. And I don't know how active you are in reaching out for a diverse audience, nor do I know how active I want to be for reaching out for a Black audience. I make the things that I think are true to me, and it always resonates with me. I celebrate people that look like me that have great achievements, and I don't feel like I'm cheating anybody else because I celebrate those more.
Yeah.
But that's who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I was raised.
Yeah. No, I mean it's who you're from. It's where you grew up. But also if you name your shit Chocolate Genius, you know what I mean?
Well, our first record was Black music.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So yeah.
I mean, that was a conscious challenge
Right.
for people that have to write about what we do to have to define it, and
Right.
I mean, our place is nigger lovers, so
Yeah.
you know,
Get on board.
yeah, get on board
Or don't.
or don't.
Yeah. Well, when did you pick up the guitar then? As soon as you dropped the saxophone?
No, I played guitar when I was like 8 years old.
Oh.
I mean, I didn't play it. I owned one.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was 15, I started playing flute,
Oh, wow.
and then I'd be, playing flute at all these jam sessions. I thought the flute's not loud enough. I couldn't hear it, so now I could play the saxophone. And, yeah, I didn't play guitar until really late, right around black music.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, this is the first time I ever wrote on guitar.
That's insane.
1997.
That's insane. You're a master.
No.
I would say,
if
yeah.
I played guitar right now, you wouldn't say, "Oh, this guy plays guitar," but I could say, "I wrote this song on guitar," and hand the guitar to a really good guitar player and make it sound. You know what I mean?
You hang with some pretty
Oh,
hangable hangers.
That's how I'm able to look good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, throughout that, musicians have been really attracted to what I do.
Uh-huh.
So I get good, amazing musicians.
What do you think it is? Because you zone in, or the creativity, or the uniqueness of it, or the soul?
I'm not sure, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're not challenging songs to play where someone would go, "Oh, I got to jump into this because it's so hard," or whatever. I don't know, man. It's just like kindred spirits. You know what I mean?
In your vast professional journey, all the different shows that you've done tech and music for, what has been the humor or the
With this show?
cadence of this show? Yes.
Well, look, that's a good question. The cadence. We had such an unlocked version of this show before we staged it. I literally flew from Paris and met Roger in Portland at a hotel by the airport. And I walked in, and he had kind of told me about it. So I kind of wrote all this. I decided it was going to be drones. That was my original conception for the piece, which still kind of works. It's what it is, right?
Especially the end.
So I wrote all these drones, and then we met in a hotel room, and he was reading it to me, and I was kind of saying, "Well, let's put this here, let's put that there," and then the pandemic hit. So we had we did it a couple of times before that, after that, and then the pandemic hit, so we could never get it up properly, And now it's just a trip to see it evolve, not in terms of what we're doing, but how the audience reacts. And it's going to be trippy because normally, we can develop things over time, and I can see Roger react to how the audience is reacting, how it's flowing. But it's been so long sitting there, and it's like you said the other day, this guy, man, he's incredible. He's memorizes this it's kind of a 2-hour poem.
Yeah.
It's really a poem, And so he's locked in, and the audience is doing this, and I'm thinking, are we too locked into shift now? And I don't want you to base stuff on what's being reacted. And he's pretty steady. He's been good night to night. So, all I'm really learning from this run is my link with him and how we flow.
But it's wild. This is what I was saying earlier. No one talks to each other like that on a stage. I mean, again, it must be because you're a
30
musician.
years, dude.
Yeah, I know, but a guitar can talk to the piano in that way. I hear it as an audience member, but a performer live, even though you have a set, cues, but when it rises, when it falls, and I don't know how much you.
It's kind of like what I was
gain
speaking
or
to
not.
before. My whole approach to music or anything in general is just okay. You got these boxes, these two speakers, and it's whether it's magic or air, what's going to come out of there is going to affect what's happening here. And so my only thing is I'm just I'm following his cues as to how I can support his text. You know what I mean?
Or set it. I mean,
Or set it, yeah.
I remember the first time I saw a Huey P. Newton story was in Los Angeles at the Actors Gang, and it started with nothing on stage. The one visual of the photograph, and you had it was 7 minutes of music, sound.
Man, see,
nothing else.
that's funny because it's like, because I had no boundaries and no previous knowledge of what theater should be or shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. And I just knew that, like, he was going to be in the chair for a long time. And my thought was like, I got to make it really tense.
Uh-huh.
So when he finally opens his mouth, which is kind of similar to this show, you know,
Yeah.
similar to this show, it's like, you know, I didn't know. Because you could write something and then all of a sudden you're in a theater and like 2 minutes is like, feel like 20 minutes.
Right.
Or 30 seconds can feel like 5 seconds. You know what I mean? I had
Right.
no concept of like, oh, we have lights, we have all these things we can work with.
For me, we're doing your play now, and so the slavery, masters, love.
Oh, I got
How
you.
are they all? Is that I mean,
No,
clearly not conscious.
Yeah,
But-
right?
Yeah.
Not at all. And
You know,
Like I told
your
you, I-
master's love. Everybody
know
wants
to
their
be-
master's love.
I know, right? I don't know. That's trippy. I mean, I think everything, you know, inadvertently has a thread.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, even in like what we were talking about the other day with Sade, and yeah. I mean, I hadn't thought about it till now. Maybe we could use that track in this thing.
That's what I'm trying to
I
say.
hadn't thought about the hook.
Yeah,
Yeah, to me it was like voodoo breath. It was like, to me, that song was always about waking up with someone in the morning and they have really bad breath. But you love them so much, you'll face that breath. So that was voodoo breath. That's where it came from. Right?
It's deeper to me.
I love it that it's deeper you, because that's always the beauty of it. It's like,
But
I
that's-
realized the play is a mirror.
Absolutely.
And everything is like a mirror, like everything is like perfect, man. It's like the things you put out. And then like, it's this mirror about like what you take from it. And I'll sit there gladly in the background like, that's what I meant.
Right,
But
right.
no clue.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, voodoo breath, that was the way in for me. Yeah. But I love that you took it somewhere else. And
Well, it's the mirror. I mean, that's the songwriter sort of inroads to the playwriting thing too, because then it's just like I'm going to set the mood and the tone. You know, I'm sure every one of your songs, like, we don't know what you're saying half the time the first time we hear it. So half of us is us placing ourselves inside
Right.
your world anyway.
And that's what the cool thing about opening all this shit is. And that's also the cool thing, I think, about if you can, which is what I was trying to say about Kim Fowley earlier, if you can write without an audience
Yeah,
and literally disappear as you're writing,
yeah,
that's the purest shit.
yeah,
And it's hard to get to.
yeah.
You know what I mean? In this day and age, you're like, oh, I gotta make some money. Who's fine?
That it's just coming out.
Yeah, my wife's the other. What's she gonna think? You know?
Right.
Oh my God! It's like if you can disappear,
Yeah,
dude, you're golden.
yeah.
And that's all
when
I
it-
want to do.
Yeah, when it's
all
big
I wanna do.
topics. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's nothing easy in what you're talking about.
Big topics, small topics. I don't care. Just disappear.
Wow.